On October 6th, the Deep Fat Fried live show and meetup is coming to Las Vegas, featuring TJ, Scotty, Paul's Ego, musical guest The God Bombs. Get your tickets now, available in the description section down below. Be there or be dead. Or square. All right, it's time to do something that people really shouldn't do. It's time to engage in behavior that is definitely not advisable and might even be immoral. It's time to watch some Matt Walsh. Let's do this. This is called Debunking the Arguments to Be Child-Free. Cancelled.
A prominent author named Andrea Bartz reignited a familiar conversation.
She ain't that damn prominent. I never heard of her. I never heard of her. How prominent could she be? She ain't Stephen King. She ain't even Clive Barker. She ain't even Dean Koontz.
Over the weekend when she tweeted about the joys of being, quote, child-free. Here's what her post said.
All right, let's see. Let's see this awful nightmare of a post. Let's see this demonic hell post.
She's first quoting people on the other side.
Oh, it's going to be a nightmare. I can already feel it. It's going to be so terrible.
She says, child-free
All right.
people will never experience the joy of watching their child touch grass for the first time. And she responds to that by saying, okay, but do parents know the joy of being 37 and sleeping in and drinking coffee in silence and then leaving the house on a moment's notice whenever the F I want?
You go, girl. I don't even know. I don't even think people say you go, girl anymore. But you know what? F it. You go, girl. You know what? I'm sorry. You know what? You should be on the level of Stephen King and Clive Barker, Andrea Bartz. Because that was beautiful. That was beautiful, and you're beautiful.
Every few months we get another attempt by a childless woman, it is almost always a woman, to try and convince us that it's actually a great...
No, I'm pretty sure childless people of all sexes talk about how it's cool to not have kids pretty often. I know I do. I don't think it's just one woman every freaking few months says something to rankle your nut hairs. I'm pretty sure you just focus on women because you're a misogynist piece of crap. And, you don't really care about these child-free men going around. In fact, a lot of these child-free men are just like the very incels that make up your audience. So, of course, you're not going to attack them.
Great idea to live only for yourself. And
this is basically like, think about the implication here, right? The implication here is basically women who don't have kids should not be happy about not having kids, which basically just kind of goes to like this forced birth place of like, yeah, the very purpose of a woman is to pump out new units that we can capitalistically exploit in this nightmarish dystopia we all live in. Like, yeah, well, maybe not, buddy. Maybe that shit kind of sucks. Maybe if you were ever to convince me of some sort of like mandatory birth argument, it would have to be a lot damn different on this planet for me to even begin to hear that shit out. Like, you would have to create a world that wasn't like a dystopian nightmare. You'd have to create a world where people actually gave a shit about each other and the environment, and there was no poverty, and there was no war, and there was no disease. Like, if the world was like that, then maybe I would listen to you be like, I don't think people should be allowed to not have kids. I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, I would still tell you to go f yourself and kick you in your ass. But at least I wouldn't revile you with every fiber of my being, just like 70% of them.
Die by yourself and make yourself into an ancestral dead end, leaving behind no progeny and no legacy. And every once in a while, the woman...
What do you give a shit? Wait a minute. You don't like me anyway. You don't like me. You don't like Andrea Bratz or whatever her name is. Sorry, I'm bad with names. You don't like her. You don't like me. You don't like any of us. Shouldn't you want our genetic lineage to be a dead end? Like, shouldn't you be like, yeah, all these libs and lefties, they ain't even breeding. So they'll be dead. They'll all die out, and the conservatives will inherit the earth. Like, wouldn't you be thinking that's like a great status quo? Shouldn't that be awesome for you? Right?
Woman making this case is someone other than Chelsea Handler. But whether it's Chelsea Handler or not, the argument is always effectively the same. If you don't have kids, you can sleep in, relax, drink coffee in peace, leave the house whenever you want, and enjoy conveniences and luxuries that are beyond the reach of people with children.
Yep.
Now, the first and most obvious response to this kind of claim is that it's simply untrue. It's a
Okay. Untrue. Let's hear the reason why.
false premise. Parents can and do know what it's like to do all of those things, sleep in, drink coffee peacefully, etc. We know because we experienced those things before we had kids. And once our kids get older, we'll have just as much access to them as Andrea Bartz does. In fact, all of the luxuries she mentions really only become difficult when you have young kids. And this is almost always the case when child-free, quote-unquote, people talk about what they imagine the irritations and sufferings.
Okay. So the counter argument is like, look, the period of your life where you're like miserably chained to this screaming ball of need is relatively brief. Therefore, everyone should do it. You ever notice that I never once in the, I mean, maybe sarcastically, but I never once in the history of my channel have ever come on here and been like, hey, people who are having kids, don't even do it. Just no more breeding. No breeding allowed. No matter how annoying I find your kids, or no matter how fucked up this planet gets, I generally kind of think that it's your decision whether or not you want to have kids or not. I don't inundate you with propaganda about how you shouldn't have kids. I mean, I could come up with some great arguments for why you shouldn't, but I don't inundate you with that propaganda. I don't try to force you to not have kids. So why am I always receiving this static coming the other way? Why is it always like, you better have some kids? This child-free stuff don't lead to nothing but misery. I've been child-free for 38 goddamn years. Hasn't led to 1 ounce of misery. Never once have I been like, man, I sure do wish I had a screaming little ball of need. Never wanted it. Never freaking moped around about my genetic line, though. Oh my God, no, my genetic line. My genetic line doesn't matter, okay? I have relatives in my family who, you know, maybe they're not directly my line or my lineage, but they'll breed and they'll have a generation that carries on whatever genes of me are worth a shit. But I don't need to do it. I'm glad to be the end of this tangent. Like, okay, it got to this point, now it's done. Now it's over. So what? Is anyone going to weep about that? How many people have died childless? Have you ever heard one person talk? I mean, like, let's see. Here are some people, famous people who died childless. Let's see what we got. Well, these people aren't dead, but here's some people who are like Helen Mirren, don't have any kids. Betty White didn't have any kids. National treasure, Betty White, never had kids. Even though she was a national treasure and everybody freaking loved her. Have you heard even one person be like, it's too bad the white line died. The white line got snorted up into oblivion. Who cares? Who gives a rat's ass? Like, there was no guarantee that there was another Betty White coming down the white line.
Of parents must be. They're almost always talking about parenting young children. If your kids are, say, 10 or older.
I mean, there's plenty of disadvantages to kids at every stage of their freaking life. First, they're dependent. Then they're obnoxious. Then they're defiant. Then they're surly. Then, when and if they finally freaking leave, you got to continuously, they either neglect you or they constantly want handouts. So at every stage of having a kid, there are huge disadvantages. Now, am I saying there's nothing good about it? I mean, yeah, I am. But am I saying you can't find something good about it? No. If there's some aspect of that garbage that you actually like, be my freaking guest. Have at it. Have fun. Someone's got to do it for the human race to continue. I don't consider myself an anti-natalist. I would like to see humanity in general continue on. So someone's got to breed, but it should be the people who actually want to. And I find it so weird that at a time with literally billions of people on the face of this earth, billions of people, and less resources for them all to share, this is when there's this massive push for breed. No. No. You. I don't want to.
However, there's no reason why you can't sleep in or enjoy silence in your home or, even leave the house without much hassle. So if these things do fall out of reach, it's only for, in most cases, maybe a 10-year window or so. In my case, the window's...
just a decade. And it staggers as you have more, obviously. But yeah, like just a decade of misery and subjugation to, not being able to do the things you want to do. That's fine.
A little bit longer because we have 87 kids. Still, it's not a permanent situation. And even when you have young kids, even if you have 87 young kids, you can still experience the joy of sleeping in and relaxing and so on. It just requires a little bit of planning. You
have to plan to be a rich grifter for the Daily Wire that can afford a nanny and stuff to take care of their kids, For instance. Several reasons not to have kids. We live in a world with food and water shortages, climate change, barely support a child with 2 full-time jobs now. Between work and sleep, you're effectively away from your kid 2/3 of the day, which I'm sure is great for their development too.
You have to hire babysitters. You have to get the grandparents to watch the kids so you can spend a few days just with your spouse or something. There are many ways to orchestrate some relaxation time, no matter how many kids you have, and no matter how young they are. You just have to put in some effort and some planning.
Yeah, effort and planning is what I'm trying to avoid, dipshit. Like, come on. What's not getting through to you here? I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to have to plan carefully when I get to relax, when I get to sleep in. I like being able to do that whenever I want to. Dumbass. Like, is that not clear? What do you have against my freedom? I don't have anything against your freedom. You can be free to pump out as many goddamn dumbass Walsh units as you want. Yeah, clutter up the world with that garbage. I don't give a shit. That's your prerogative, buddy. That's your right as a goddamn living, breathing human being on this miserable ball of shit we call the earth, okay? You have fun. Just keep on rutting, keep on pumping out more little Walsh'S to get in my way in traffic one day. Have fun with it. Have at it, man. Do your worst. But I don't want to. I'd rather not. Thanks.
Be intentional to make those sorts of joys available. In fact, I would argue that only parents of young kids can experience those joys, however fleetingly. Sure, a 37-year-old woman without kids can wake up late in the morning and have a cup of coffee in silence, but this is not any great treat for her. It's just her life. It's her.
Yeah, that's kind of the point. It's not a great treat. It's just life. It's just the wonderful freedom that a childless person has that they get to take for granted. They don't have to sit there in eternal gratitude for a moment's respite because they didn't saddle themselves to a little begging ball of need to sap all of the joy and spontaneity and freedom out of their lives. They didn't make that mistake. I'm sorry you did, but you got to live with it.
For every day. She has nothing to compare it to. I had many quiet cups of coffee before I had kids, but I didn't find actual joy in those moments because it's all I ever knew. You take it for granted.
Good. I want to take it for granted. I don't want to have to sit there. Like, can you imagine? Like, the argument he's making now is so absurd. He's basically saying, like, life is such a miserable cluster that even just the simple joy of being able to quietly enjoy a cup of coffee now feels like this great, wonderful thing. This is his sales pitch. If you have kids, you'll be so miserable that even like the bare minimum of like freedom will seem magical to you. Is that a selling point? Is that something to want? It's like, man, you know, when you get the shit beat out of you every single day, going a whole day without getting the shit beat out of you is like a magical sunset. It's such a treat. No one beat the out of me today. Wow. What a great argument for getting the beat out of me constantly. Yay.
Yeah, I admit I don't get very many quiet moments at this stage of my life, but when I do get a single moment like that, I guarantee I enjoy it 1,000 times more than Andrea has enjoyed all of her quiet moments combined.
Okay. Yep, sure, buddy. That's like, that sentence should be in the dictionary next to the word cope, because that defines it better than whatever the actual fucking definition is.
So she has me beat on quantity, but I'm winning on quality.
You ain't winning anything on quality, dude. No. Afraid not.
It's a simple and perhaps kind of depressing reality of the human condition that we can't really appreciate something unless we've experienced its opposite. You know, unless you...
Yeah, like, I never appreciated not having to listen to Matt Walsh talk until I experienced having to listen to him talk. And now, every moment of my life, no matter how bad it is, like, you know, like, whatever. Scotty's plane crash, he's dead. Mom hanged herself because she couldn't take the loss, you know. My whole family, it's just like a cascade, and my whole family and everyone I love just ends up dead. At least at the end of that, I can still say, well, at least I didn't have to listen to any Matt Walsh during any of that, you know. I can at least appreciate the small joy of not having had to listen to Matt Walsh while all that was going on, you know. What a magical thing. What a magical moment.
You have something to compare it to. You can't really appreciate it. You just can't. You can't really enjoy being full unless you've been really hungry. You can't enjoy lying in bed unless you've been very tired.
I hate, like, no. You don't need any of that, okay? Like, people always like, oh man, if you haven't experienced the complete total opposite of something, are you really appreciating that thing itself? I'm pretty sure, yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure good stuff is still good. Like, man, you could never really appreciate the beauty of a delicious scoop of ice cream until you've also enjoyed the misery of a sad scoop of hot dog. Like, does that track? Does that make sense? It's just something people say because it sounds true. You gotta experience the opposite. You know? You can't really enjoy the sensation of getting a blowjob from a hot girl until you've been stabbed in the dick with a cactus by an ugly girl. You know? You can't get it, right? What are you talking about? Yes, you can. Good things feel good, not because they're being compared to bad things, but just because they're good in and of themselves.
You can't really enjoy walking out of the house without hassle unless you've actually experienced trying to walk out of the house with a gaggle of small children who can't find their shoes or their jackets and are wearing clothing that has somehow become filthy and stained in the 30 minutes since you put it on them.
Cope! Copity cope, cope. At the Copacabana. TJ's ass was filled with a banana. Matt Walsh, I don't know if this is your cope or if you're just trying to sell this cope to others, but this is cope, my friend. This is some ridiculous cope. This is next level cope. This is insane loser cope. It's like, yeah, having kids really is a non-stop slog of dehumanizing and degrading, you know, garbage that makes you just want to crawl into a hole in the ground and cover yourself with dirt. You know, it's just miserable every second. These kids are obnoxious little They're dirty. They're stupid. They're vulgar. They're mean. They're ugly. They always need something. They never shut the up. But, you know, once you have them, the few little quiet moments you do get, they seem real special. It's like this dude is unironically saying exactly the thing I just said, but trying to make it sound good. Trying to make that a sales pitch for having kids.
If you've experienced that, then yes, in the moments when you get to walk out of the house and everything's fine, you go, wow, that's a relief. What this means is that only people with children can actually experience the kinds of joys that are supposedly only available to people without them. Life has an ironic way about it, you know.
And isn't it ironic, don't you think? It's like right-wing cope from a dumb dip.
In that way. Besides, when it comes to quiet, you know, not all moments of quiet are made the same. So, for example, last night at about 10 o'clock, Andrea Bartz, I assume, was most likely in her house alone, wherever she lives, and I'm sure it was very quiet. And I was...
Dude, no. Andrea Bartz was in the midst of a crazy wine-fueled orgy last night at 10 o'clock. I know this for a fact. Don't even lie. Don't even deny.
In my house where I live. And it was also very quiet. But it was a full kind of quiet. It was a warm quiet, not an empty and cold quiet.
Yeah, you know, when she's in her house enjoying peace and quiet, it's a cold quiet. It's the quiet of emptiness, the quiet of desolation. But the quiet that exists in the Matt Walsh household is a warm quiet. A quiet like a warm blanket that you just wrap yourself up in and you feel so snug and so secure because it's a quiet of goodness. A quiet of purity. What the are you talking about, dude? Like, do you really believe the that's coming out of your mouth right now? Do you really honestly think that what you're describing is at all reflective of any reality whatsoever? That's what I need to know from you. I can see in your eyes that it's not. Like, look how in his eyes you just know that what he said is bullshit. Like, he knows he's full of shit. Look at him. Just look at his face. Look at his goddamn bullshit ass eyes and tell me those aren't the eyes of a guy that 100% knows that he just laid an ideological turd at your feet and is like eagerly anticipating the moment where you either sniff it and realize it's a turd or you accept it into your life. Like, yeah, this is great. Because unfortunately, even though I sniff it and immediately recognize its turd-esque odor, there are people out there that will, wow, this smells great. This is the best damn argument I ever heard. This is solid gold. Thank you, Matt Walsh. You're so insightful. What?
My children were asleep. My wife had gone to bed. I went up to my kids' rooms. I checked on them, tucked them back in, and then I sat on my...
Bullshit. You didn't do none of that. Matt Walsh does not check on his kids. Matt Walsh, let me make sure all my children are all right because I'm a good dad. Shut up. No one believes that. You're a repugnant piece of shit. Everyone knows that. Don't try to give me this, oh, I'm a good man bullshit, Matt Walsh. We know you're a sociopathic, narcissistic scum. Don't give me this, oh, I'm so good, actually. I'm actually a really nice guy. No, you're not. No, you're not.
My couch, and I read a book. The house was as...
Oh, you didn't read a book, you lying sack of shit. You didn't read no book. You didn't check on your goddamn kids. None of that shit happened. You locked yourself in your study and jerked off to transplant or whatever the you do. Probably being generous.
Quiet as a house can get, just as it is every night, even though it was full of kids. So we were both relaxing in the silence, but mine was not a solitary silence. Mine was the silence you get after you tuck your children into bed and kiss them goodnight. Hers was the silence that you get when you have no children to tuck in and nobody to kiss goodnight.
Oh yeah, the empty silence. The silence of being all alone in this great big wide world. I'm so miserable. I just wish I had someone.
And I'll take mine any day. I'll take both my loud and my quiet.
Okay, here's an idea. All right, I got a idea for you. I got a brilliant idea for you, Matt Walsh. Are you ready for the idea, Matt Walsh? You take yours all day. You do just that. Andrea Bartz, she takes hers all day. And you both shut the up about it, maybe. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you go off and you pump out as many goddamn little Walsh units as you want. She goes out, drinks as much coffee in silence as she wants. And what's the problem? Whence cometh the goddamn issue, buddy? Who cares? She don't want kids. You do. She don't have kids. You do. Who cares? Why does this need to be a video?
But that's the key word, available. And I've made this point before, but I think it's worth repeating because it's something that, quote, child-free advocates seem to miss. I think many people miss it.
To be fair, TJ, most things you respond to don't need to be videos. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, you could argue that I don't need to be making this video either because, like, whatever, Matt Walsh doesn't actually have any power in the world. But, you try to make content, you try to propagate your ideas, I guess. But you know what? At least at the end of the day, I'm propagating my own ideas and not the ideas I'm being paid to propagate by some shadowy right-wing goddamn cabal. So there is that.
Many contexts in modern society. Now, they're correct when they point out that parenting brings all kinds of challenges that might cause parents to feel irritated and overwhelmed. There's plenty in parenthood that can cause real suffering. I mean, all of that is true. It's also true that some parents are never happy. They regret having kids. They resent their kids for existing. There are parents like that, no doubt about it.
Like my mom. I always tried to be like, look, Mom, watch me. Look, Mom, I'm grifting a bunch of right-wing idiots. Mom, watch. That's nice, Matt.
They're miserable. And their kids will rightly grow to hate them for being so miserable, which will only heap more misery on top of misery.
Yeah, how you like that, Mom? I'm successful now. Look, I'm one of the best grifters there ever was.
All of that is true. But that's because the joy of parenthood is available, but it's not imposed on us against our will. It will not sprinkle down on us like rain from the clouds. It's made available, but you have to choose to experience it. And choosing joy is all about focus. What are you deciding to focus on? What are you paying attention to?
Unfortunately, at this moment, I'm paying attention to you. I'm looking forward to in a few minutes when I no longer have to do that. I mean, I guess I don't have to even now. I could very easily and conceivably not watch this anymore, especially since I feel like I've probably addressed every argument it's going to make. But for the sake of completion,
you can take joy in those hectic mornings when your house is full of life and noise and energy. You could take
Hey, here's an idea, Matt. Why don't you just make the exact same argument over and over and over again, like 15 times in the same video? That's a good way to get a video up to 9 minutes and 12 seconds in length. Don't have 9 minutes and 12 seconds worth of different arguments. Just make the exact same argument over and over, which is basically just like, if you have kids to make you miserable, then quiet moments will feel happier because you're going to appreciate them more because most of your moments are loud and obnoxious and annoying. So yeah, there's that. And that's your argument. And you've made it, I think, at least 5 times now. And I can see you're doing it again. So, hey, you.
It could be a joyful thing, or you can focus on the fact that you can't drink your cup of coffee in peace.
Sure.
You can pay attention to what you aren't getting, what you can't do, or you could pay attention to the beauty in those moments. That's how you take the.
You know who paid attention to the beauty in those moments? The woman that you're currently chastising. I mean, what more did she really do other than get on Twitter and take some joy in the freedom to quietly enjoy a cup of coffee in her own house? Like, wasn't that tweet all about appreciating exactly that thing? But apparently, when child-free people do it, it makes you mad. Only us child-having people are allowed to appreciate a quiet moment. A child-free person enjoying a quiet moment is a sin. That makes me mad. That triggers me something fierce.
the joy that's available or not. You can take it or you can turn it down. That's it. Life is presenting it, says, here's.
Yeah, Tucker, if you could go ahead and get me a cheesesteak hash brown bowl with onions on it and like a grilled chicken breast on the side, I'd be down with that.
Some joy. You could feel it right now if you want.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of times people say, no, because I'd rather be focused on this thing that annoys me.
Uh-huh. I mean, Jesus, you just described my life at this moment. I am focused on this thing that annoys me, and it's you. And you're starting to lose my focus because you're not saying anything new. You haven't in quite some time in the video, but like I said, sake of completion, let's just get there. I'm just going to run you the rest of the way through and see if there's anything else worth responding to.
Now, this is about as self-helpy as you'll ever hear me sound, but there's an important point in it, which is that literally all of the joys of a child-free, quote-unquote, life are absolutely available to those with children. You just might have to work a little harder to get them, or you might have to wait a little while and be a little patient. But the joys of parenthood are absolutely not available to those who are not parents. It's a whole category, an entire genre of joy that is out of reach for the childless. Whether they want to choose it or not, it's just not available. Life, it's not an option on the menu. Now, I'm not trying to rub it in or gloat. I'm just trying.
That was exactly what you were trying to do. But you know what? It's kind of ineffectual because I don't believe you. I don't really think it's all that gratifying. I think it might be to you. Don't get me wrong. I think that maybe to some people, there are some gratifying aspects of raising a kid, but I don't think I'm one of them. I don't think I would like that. I don't think I would be good at it. I don't think it's something I would be interested in doing. Therefore, like, shut the f up. Like, this is such a weird argument. Like, yeah, are there aspects of raising a kid that might be joyful to people who like that? Sure. There's aspects of lots of things that are like that I wouldn't want to do. Skydiving. I have no interest in ever doing that. But to the people who like it, it's fun. Wow, what a great experience. Right? This is called different strokes for different folks. This is called preferences. This is called we're not the same person, idiot. Like, is this like hard to grasp? There are plenty of pleasures in life that I will never get to experience because either they're unattainable or I'm just not the kind of person that could ever appreciate them. There are plenty of people who see the pleasure in a pasta salad. I think pasta salad is gross. There are plenty of people who see the pleasure in feet. There's a lot of foot fetishists these days. I look at a foot, it doesn't even turn me on in the goddamn slightest. I will never know the pleasure of having a foot fetish. Oh my God, I'm missing out. Oh no. Ah!
Trying to convey to anyone who's hesitant to have kids because they're worried that they'll be unhappy, that you'll only be unhappy if you choose to be. But a whole new level of happiness will be open to you if you choose that instead. That's what Andrea Bartz and so many others who brag about being, quote, child-free don't see. And
that's great, buddy. You're really compelled. You're very compelling. You totally changed my mind on this. Good job.
That's why they are today, again, canceled. Hey, you.
Sorry, that sucks. I wish you didn't have to cancel me, but I guess I deserve it.